Okay, we have something a little different today. We're going to be doing kind of like a double header. This first race is taking place at Spa, and there's myself and a Porsche 911 and a Lotus. And the race isn't that long, it's only 3 laps. And we're off. Now, both of these guys beat me off the line, and during I didn't include the qualifying in this, but neither one of these guys qualified. So I had the pole position, but they didn't qualify. So heading up this uphill section here, and they seem to be pulling away from me fairly easily. So I'm a bit apprehensive about a decent finish. Now, I will end up being on the podium because there's only 3 people in the race. But through these slower sections, I am able to rein them in. And in this turn right here is the first indication that I see of this Lotus kind of sliding around in the corner. And I'm thinking, well, he doesn't seem to have that good a grip, so maybe I can get him on these other sections. And he goes off track just slightly right there. And the Porsche is fairly steadily pulling away, but this Lotus tries to dive underneath him right here, goes into the dirt a little bit, and then coming around here, he slides really bad, and he slides into me, and he ends up spinning out right in front of me. And now I'm set on trying to get past this Porsche, although he does a pretty good job of pulling away from me. So I don't even know if I'm going to be able to catch this guy, let alone get around him. And I get a little bit of a time penalty for cutting the corner right there. And then another off-track penalty right there. Well, actually no penalty, but I did go off track. And I overshoot that, so that gives that Porsche even more room. I make a quick check of the Lotus, and he seems to be a little over 8 seconds, almost 9 seconds behind me. So I'm kind of in this no man's land in between these two. And just trying to maintain consistency around the track. In qualifying, I did a pretty good lap time in qualifying, so and I've driven this particular car quite a bit, so I'm pretty familiar with this Lexus LFA and what it can do, and where the limits are and all that. So I'm pushing it about as hard as I can push it, and this Porsche is still managing to pull away from me. So, he clearly has more overall speed. It's just a question of how good that particular driver is with laying down that speed. But in sections like this right here, he really has no problem at all pulling away from me. So, you know, that car clearly has swifter pickup than I do. He does slow down quite a bit right there on that corner, and he kind of slid around a little bit. He goes into the dirt ever so slightly right there. And I make it around here in proper fashion to come up to the top up here to begin the final lap of the race. And I'm looking at the Lotus behind me once again, and he's still like 8 seconds behind. So he's remained consistent with his lap times and all that, just quite a ways behind us. Now this Porsche he's a little over between 3 and 4 seconds ahead of me, depending upon what section of track I'm on. And it drops down to about 2 seconds when we get to the slower parts of the track. Because I'm able to gain a little bit of ground on him in the slower sections. But in the faster sections, he has more pulling power than I do. And I kind of slide a little bit right there, and that corner wasn't as good as it could have been. And through this long sweeping turn here, you're able to get up to fairly decent speed before you have to brake really hard for this right-hander. And I kind of misjudge it a little bit right there. Coming around to this slow right-hander. Slow in the sense that, you know, you're only doing 60 or 70 miles an hour through there. In a real world sense, that's pretty fast going through a corner at 60 miles an hour, but on a racetrack, that's kind of slow. So it's fairly clear to me I'm not going to be able to catch him. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be second in this race. And that's exactly what happens. And I did see that the Lotus was able to gain a little bit more ground. And then when it comes time to the podium, both of those guys, they left the race. So their little holograms are up on the podium. And I decide to just continue on, and I transition over, and I'm going to be using the same car. And I go to Daytona, to the sports car circuit for Daytona. And waiting for this stuff to load. And I see in the pits, that's the same, and there he is on the track. That's the same Porsche that I was racing against at Spa. So this guy, he transitioned over here to this race as well. So beginning the first qualifying lap here in this Lexus LFA, I kind of misjudged that pretty bad and almost went off track. I'm making it through this little chicane section here on the infield at Daytona. coming around, end up heading the opposite direction, going through this chicane section that leads you back around through the infield and back onto the back straightaway of Daytona. And in this section here, you're able to pedal to the metal. Let's see how fast this thing can go, until you have to brake pretty hard for this chicane that's in the middle of the back straightaway. And I make it through there with no penalties for cutting the corners or anything. And trying to get up to speed as much as I can. And I end up with a 150, which is not that bad. And this is the end of the third qualifying lap. And again, I get through this section good. No penalties for cutting the corners or anything, although it was a little bit slower than the previous qualifying lap. Getting through that section, I mean. And I end up getting a little bit better qualifying on that. I get a 148 overall. However, the guy in the Porsche, he qualified with a 147. So he actually ended up having the pole position as I wait for everything to load up for the race itself. And this is pretty much a heads-up race. Just me and this golf-themed Porsche. And I know from the previous race that I did with him that this car's, it's faster than I am in the straightaways. So this is going to be a challenge. If I'm going to have any hope at all, it's going to have to be in areas of the corners and so forth, getting through the corners faster than he can. But we'll see what happens here. And we're off. And, he just kind of sat there. So I was able to get off the line before him. Now, I don't know if he's doing that as some kind of tactic to let's see if I can let this guy go and then get around him, or if he was just kind of lapsing a little bit when the green flag came down. I don't know. He's sliding around a little bit back there, but he's able to gain ground pretty fast. And then I have to brake really hard here, and he gets right up on me, and he's poking his nose on and he bumps into me, and he kind of slides around a little bit. And I want to get in this corner before he does, which I do, and then heading onto this back straightaway section. I already know this guy's faster than me, so it doesn't surprise me that he's able to pass me. And then heavy braking to get through this section, and he's sliding around a little bit. I went off track there, actually twice, and I got a time penalty for it. Now on the front straightaway, I'm, I'm going as fast as I can go. And it does look like, when I get into sixth gear, I have a little bit more speed than he does. But, do I have the brakes and the cornering? And he gets underneath me, and he swings wide on that corner, and I get under him, and he kind of slides into me. And I do get to that corner before he does. And I'm keeping an eye on him in my rearview mirror, knowing full well that this guy has the ability to get past me with not too much trouble. And so that's it. I'm expecting he takes that corner kind of wide and slides a little bit, and then I take this corner horribly and heading back onto the front straightaway. He slams into the wall. I saw him in the rearview mirror. He slammed into the wall. And he's 1.6, 1.5 seconds behind me. And then I end up going off track right here. And he gets through there a lot better than I did. And he just flies past me. So at this point, I'm thinking, all of my hopes are dashed at, like, beating this guy. Because I'm pretty sure he's just going to pull away from me. And then as I get on the braking for this corner right here, I'm like, wait a minute, and the guy just left. He left the race. And I had a pretty hard time getting through that corner, but he left the race. So now I'm sitting here going, well, chances are pretty good that I'm going to win this race because I'm the only one in it. So I just continue on. And at this point, I actually don't have any competition. So if I decide to go fast or go slow, it really doesn't matter. There's nobody to compete against. But I don't want to get a DNF, so I continue on. If nothing else, I'll have yet more experience on the Daytona sports car circuit with this particular car. And I get through this section a lot better than I did on the last lap. Getting up to speed on the front straightaway. And with this car, I can probably get up to like 180 something or other before I have to do hard braking. So like 183, 184, and then, just real hard braking to get down to the, 60, 70 that you have to have for this corner right here. And like this corner here is, usually between 50 or 60 miles an hour you can get through that corner. And this one here, a little over 100, you can go through that one. And then again, a real slow, between 40 and 60 miles an hour through that corner right there. And same thing with this left-hander coming up here. You got to slow down quite a bit to make your way onto this back straightaway. and then pedal to the metal. Let's go. How fast can this car go? And I realize that there probably are going to be people that say, well, you won, but you didn't really win. And, I agree with that wholeheartedly. However, there's another school of thought that a win is a win. You know, irregardless of what the circumstances are, because the other people that are involved in the races, you don't have any control over what they choose to do. So I do cross over the finish line in first place with a 149 lap time. And of course, I'm the only one on the podium, so um, I take the opportunity to relish the moment and shake my fist in the air and jump around and say, yeah, great, okay, all right. So that's the race. I hope you liked it.